Swasthya with SFT TV. It's 10th August and we're at Union Square in New York City while the games go on in Beijing. As you can see behind me is a huge gathering of Tibetans, Taiwanese, Uyghurs and the Falun Gong practitioners, all protesting the atrocities committed by the Chinese government.
This is the time when Beijing is on the world stage and when we can put the Olympic spotlight on the human rights abuses in Tibet. This morning, late last night, we had another protest happen in Tiananmen Square. A Tibetan woman carried the Tibetan flag in Beijing. She was dragged across the ground by Chinese security, and now we've heard that she and the rest of her support team have all been detained and their whereabouts are unknown. We are going to continue to do everything we can to make sure that these kinds of actions happen in Beijing and around the world for the rest of the Olympics and until Tibet is free. I'm going to introduce each of these people individually and then let them tell their stories to you. On the right we have Jonathan Stribling from San Francisco, Carla Mendoza of New York, and Cesar Maxent of Washington, D.C. On August 8th, 1 hour before the Olympic ceremony, the three of them stood up just outside the Olympic Stadium and unfurled Tibetan national flags. Yeah. They were quickly tackled to the ground, but they definitely made a point and a statement, and they showed Beijing that Tibetans and their supporters will speak out all over the world and in China during the Olympics. I'll give it over to Jonathan to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to say I really appreciate all you being out here in the rain and being a part really of Team Tibet. That's what we went there to really make a clear statement as the Olympics were starting, saying that we were a part of Team Tibet all together, that Tibet will have a team in the Olympics in the future when they are independent, and that we are a small part of making that happen, showing the flag right before the National Stadium as the opening ceremonies were about to begin. The three of us were in the about 25-meter relay. We ran out about 25 meters and all got tackled. And we were tackled and brutalized a little bit by the Chinese military, but very little compared to what Team Tibet is doing within Tibet. The two women from the city of Aba who were just shot recently by Chinese military for simply going to the market. This is something that Team Tibet is doing around the world to really see an Olympics that's an Olympics of liberation, not an Olympics of oppression, not an Olympics of genocide. We need an Olympics that's about truth and justice as opposed to genocide, and that's what we were doing in bringing that action to the streets of Beijing.
Being in Beijing was difficult for me. I'm still feeling pretty sick. So I won't speak long, but I will say that the Chinese government is so scared of this flag. They're so scared of it. They see us pull it out and they tackle us to the ground. They found another flag in my bag and they whipped me across the face with it. I said, "Free Tibet," and a Chinese soldier just punched me in the face. They're so scared of the movement for Free Tibet, but I was proud to do anything I can, and we'll continue to struggle.
A lot of us are non-Tibetans, but we wanted to go on behalf of the Tibetans that could not go in Beijing. Because the Chinese government are scared of the Tibetan people. They are scared of the Tibetan movement. They are scared of the truth. And that moment when we pulled out the Tibetan flag, we took off their mask. When they tried to humiliate us, when they tried to demoralize us, we all just took it in stride because we knew that Tibetans and supporters all over the world would be fighting, would be protesting, would be taking to the streets. The whole time during the Olympics. I got a little hurt when I was thrown to the ground, but you know what? That does not compare to what is happening to Tibetans right now inside Tibet. When I was down on the ground, I remembered the Tibetan community of New York City. I remember the Tibetan community of San Francisco. I remember Tibetan communities from all over the world. And remembered your strength and your power. And I just looked at the Chinese in the face and I laughed inside, because no matter what, you cannot destroy the Tibetan spirit. You cannot destroy their supporters. Tibet will be free. Put us in. Put us in. And if you want to help support, we have some volunteers accepting donations. They're right over there with the Rangzhen shirts, and we'd really appreciate all your help. We have a lot of people that are behind the scenes that you won't see in front of the camera, that are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, not sleeping. You know, Nick's right here, Amy, Celia, they're working their butts off, and we're doing it because we love Tibet. And we love the Tibetan people. Thank you.
Next, I'm going to introduce Evan Silverman of New York City and Diane Gatterdam of Chicago and New York. The two of them took part in an amazing action, a mock die-in in Tiananmen Square on August 9th. And during this action, they laid on the ground and draped themselves in Tibetan flags to represent the millions of Tibetans who have died throughout the Tibetan struggle since the 1950s. And they were also detained and deported. So they're going to speak about their experience here right now.
The main thing that I felt when I was in Beijing was that people in Beijing did not even think of Tibetans as from Tibet. They thought of them as an ethnic minority. And I do not believe that Tibetans are an ethnic minority. Tibetans are Tibetan, and Tibetans deserve basic human rights. The mere fact that when I pulled out a flag, the police went nuts. I cannot even imagine that happening inside of Tibet. So, I believe that Tibetans deserve freedom.
Hi everybody. I want to say, first of all, I'm humbled and honored that you allowed me to wear your flag here in New York City, and more importantly, at Tiananmen Square, the heart of the Communist Party of China. I want to say that our action happened the day after the opening ceremonies, the glitz and the glamour of the opening ceremonies. But I think what we accomplished was taking the people on Tiananmen Square back to reality, the reality of what's happening in Tibet. It also communicates something to them that they are not allowed to see in their media. So hopefully we were able to show them the truth about what's happening in Tibet. And I want to thank all of you. I also want to thank SFT for all the hard work and all the other organizations for helping us while we were there. We felt really comfortable and secure knowing that you guys were out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to all of them. Let's thank them one more time.
Taiwan is Taiwan, Tibet is Tibet, and Taiwan and Tibet is not part of China.
My name is Steve Lonigan. I'm the former mayor of Pagoda and a former candidate for governor of the state of New Jersey.
By the authorities and deported.
So why are you here, and what are you advocating?
I'm an advocate for freedom and liberty. I've traveled through Tibet quite a bit, through the cities and the villages. I've seen firsthand the destruction of the Tibetan culture, and I believe America should be taking a stronger position in favor of a free Tibet instead of capitulating to the Chinese pressure for economic growth. My message to the American people is that when we turn our backs on what's happening in Tibet, it's like turning our backs when we see a crime taking place on the streets. that we become equally responsible for the outcome of that crime, because what's happening in Tibet is a crime.
And what's your personal opinion about the Olympic Games happening?
I think the Olympic Games are a facade designed to promote China as an economically growing country that supposedly is doing what's right for its people, but they're not doing what's right for their people. They're certainly not. They're certainly destroying the Tibetan culture, and they would like nothing better than to overtake Taiwan, and we can't let that happen.